So I go through this because what we're doing today is we are still factoring trinomials, just like we did last class. The only difference is this time you're going to have a number 1 in front of your x squared term. So you're going to have numbers like this, where these all have a 2 in front of the x squared instead of just a 1 like we did last class. So the reason why I have you multiply all these out, because if you look at your final answers, they are different. Like, for example, here you've got that plus 4 in the middle. Here you got that minus 4 in the middle. That one you got the plus 1 in the middle. But if you look back at the beginning, they look very similar. There's only just slight changes, like a plus sign or a minus sign. Like here, this one's plus in front of the 6, where that one's minus in front of 6. And what that does is it changes your middle term. And then if you look at our last set, I still have my 2x and my 1x to begin with, but then I used 3 and 2. So I still got the negative 6 at the end, but it completely changed, yet again, my middle term there. So when we're factoring these out, you're going to sit here and think, it's probably close enough. But you always have to do your check, because there's always going to be a slight little difference that could make your answer actually wrong, even though it looks very similar. So you got to make sure you're paying attention to your signs. So as we're going through this, I'm actually going to go through 2 different ways that you can factor this, and then you can pick which of the 2 you like best. Yeah?
So, like, why is it on the 2x plus 6 and then the 2x minus 6?
Mm-hmm.
It ends up, the middle term ends up being the same as, like, the plus or minus ends up being the same as the middle term in the answer. But on number 3, it's like 2x minus 3, and then it ends up being the same.
Because when you distribute this out, this 2 is times this 2, which makes your positive then a bigger. So then it ends up being a positive. Yeah, that's the tricky part there, because now we don't have just 1s there like we did last time, where the bigger number always takes a sign. This time we got to multiply it times something else, so it makes another extra step there to it. So when we're factoring these trinomials, like let's say I had, for example, this trinomial here, 2x squared minus x minus 6. I would have done trials kind of like what I had up above to see if it worked. I tried my 2x and my x. That gave me my 2x squared. I started first with 1 and 6, but I got a 4 and a negative 4 as a middle term. But if I'm factoring this here, what do I want as my middle term? Negative 1. But I didn't get negative 1 with those ones. So then I started switching, and I tried my 3 and my 2, and I got a lot closer this time. This time I ended up with a positive 1. But I don't want a positive 1, I want a negative 1. So what do you think we should do to these 2 right here in order to get me a negative 1? Now multiply. You just got to flip your signs. So we want to do 2x plus 3, and then x minus 2. And again, like last time, you're going to do your check to find your middle term, because that's how we check to make sure we've done it correctly. So little smile would give me a 3x. Big smile would give me a negative 4x. Add those, there's our negative 1x, that's our middle term. So we've got lots of options this time by adding that number out in front of your x squared. So our factoring steps listed down below. You're always going to look first, see if you have a GCF. If you do, you take care of it. If you don't, then you set it up just like we were doing last time for a trinomial factor. So 2 sets of parentheses. You got to figure out your signs. And then you got to figure out what multiplies to give you your first term, multiplies to give you your last term, but then adds to give you your middle. So let's just start trying some. So if we look at number 1, is there a GCF? Good, no. So I've got 1, 2, 3 terms, so that means the trinomial factor. So I'm going to set up my 2 sets of parentheses. Our signs, remember, we look at the second sign first. This is a positive, so that means our signs are going to be the same or different. Same. So we look to the one before it. It means it's going to be plus. So both of those are positives. So now let's look to our first term. What multiplies to give us 2x squared? Well, what multiplies to give us 2? 2 would be 2 times 1.
I would put it
And then what multiplies to give us x squared? X times x. So we would use 2x and 1x. So then here, we look at our last term, what multiplies to give us 2? We already said that. 2 and 1. So then you got to, again, check, because you got to make sure you get that middle term. We want to get a 5 in the middle. So my little smile would be a 1x. Big smile is a 4x, because 2x times 2 is 4x. Add those together. Bam, there's our 5x. So that means we factored it correctly. This is our answer up here. That one we just happened to get it on the first one because it was a little easier. Your 2x and your 2, you don't really have many options. It's just 1 times 2. When you get to problems like number 2, it's a little more difficult because with 15, you could do 1 times 15, or you could use 3 times 5. You got a few more options for that one, which means you're probably going to have to guess and check a little bit more. So let's look through. Do we have a GCF there? No. So I'm going to set up my 2 sets of parentheses for my trinomial. We've got a minus at the end, so will our signs be the same or different? Different. And for now, it doesn't matter where my plus and my minus go. I'm going to just stick a plus and a minus in there. So our first term is 5x squared. How do we multiply, or what do we multiply, I should say, to give us 5x squared? Okay. 5x and 1x. That would multiply to give us 5x squared. And there's no other way to multiply to give us 5x squared. So now we have some choices to make. For 15, we got 1 times 15, or we got 3 times 5. You want to try 3 and 5? All right. I'll put 5 there and my 3 there. So my little smile would be a 5x. My big smile would be a negative 15x. That gives us negative 10x. So that didn't work. So let's switch it. Let's try the 3 first, and then the 5. Hopefully you're using pencil. So I'll put my 3 there, my 5 there. So now my little smile, 3 times x is 3x. 5 times negative 5 gives me negative 25x. I get a negative 22x. Is that exactly like my middle term though? No, it's close. So what's the one thing we're going to have to do? Change what? Change the signs. So this is now negative. That one's my positive. So I would have a negative 3x when I do my little smile. Positive 25x when I do my big smile. Those would combine to give you your positive 22. So here's our final one. All right, let's take a look at the back. So as I said, I was going to show you 2 different ways in order to factor these. I've shown you the one way. We call that the trial and error or guess and check, whatever you want to call it. It didn't take too long really with the examples that we did on the front. But if you have examples like these ones down here, for the 6x squared, you could do 1x times 6x or 3x times 2x. And then for the 20, you'd have 1 times 20 or 2 times 10 or 4 times 5. So all those different options, because then you got your plus and your minus signs. You never know where those are going to go. There could be a lot of trials, or you could just end up being lucky and getting it done right away in one step. So our other way of doing it, let's look at example 3. What you do, I'll put my little steps here. Step 1, multiply your A and your C terms. A is your first term, C is your last term. So 3 times 5 would give me what? 15. So that's our step 1. Step 2, You got to figure out what multiplies to give you 15, but would add to give you 2. So multiply to 15, add to 2, because 2 is our middle term. So which two factors of 15? Multiply to 15, add to 2. What multiplies for 15? Let's go with that. Sam? 5 and 3. So to get the plus 2, this would be 5x minus a 3x. This is what we were doing last time. These were the easier ones last time. So once you figured this part out, you're going to plug that in for the 2x up there. So we get 3x squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 5. So all we've done so far is we just kind of broke it apart to make it a little easier to see. So step 3, you're going to do some Gcf factoring. You're going to look at your first 2 terms, and then you're going to look at your last 2 terms. So looking at just the first 2, what is their Gcf here? X. They both have an x, lowest exponent being a 1. So I'm going to pull the x out, and then I have a 3x plus 5 right there. What's my Gcf in my second parenthesis? -1. Remember, we always take that negative out if our first term's negative. So that turns this to be also 3x plus 5. So you see how these parentheses match? That means we've done it correctly. Those have to match in order for you to do it right. So now what we do, and this is our last step, is the stuff in the parentheses, since those match, you write that once out in front. Your other parenthesis is the 2 things in front of them. And then this is your final answer. Which, yes, it looks like it does take a little longer, but the more you practice it, the faster you're going to get at it if you like this way. So let's try this one more time. Let's try this on number 4. Let's multiply 11 times 12. You use your calculator if you need to. Come on, guys. 11 times 12. What do we get? Isn't it 132? Come on. Help me out. Thank you. So now let's find factors of 132. You can use your beautiful multiplication chart that I gave you last class if you want to. You can use your calculator. If you go under your y equals, you can type in 132 divided by x, and it'll show you all of your factors. We just have to find the 2 factors that will add to give us a 37. There it is, 4 and 33. That would give us a 37. So those are the 2 numbers we're going to use. So 11x squared minus 4x minus 33x plus 12. So you group the first 2, group the last 2. What's our Gcf within the first 2? This is good practice for Gcf. And I'm going to be on your quiz next class. Both have an x. So we get 11x minus 4. Next one. Put that away. No. Nope. 33 and 12. 3. I'm going to take out a minus 3. Then I get 11x minus 4. So now my parentheses match. So the stuff in the parentheses goes first, and then the stuff in front of it goes in the other set. 11x minus 4 times x minus 3. All right. Next one. I'll let you guys choose. The way on the front or the other two I've been doing. I've heard one person say other two. So. All right, how about this? I'll do number 5 like the front page, and then I'll do number 6 like the back page. So number 5, set up my 2 sets of parentheses. We're going to try it like we did the ones on the front. For 4x squared, we got a couple of options. We got 4x and 1x, or we got 2x and 2x. So basically, you just got to pick one and then try it. And then if it doesn't work, you try the other ones. So which ones do we want to try? All right, John said 2x and 2x. What will our signs be? Because we have a negative 15 at the end. Different. So 1 plus, 1 minus. So we got to figure out factors of 15. So you got 1 and 15, or you got 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
All right. I'll try 3 and 5. Huh? Okay, little smile, negative 6x. Big smile's a positive 10x. And Vinny's feeling was right. Just happened to be right the first time around. All right, then 6. As I said, I'm going to do 6 like the other way. So we got to multiply first. 6 times 20. What do we get 6 times 20? 120. So we got to figure out the factors of 120 that would subtract to give us a 7. So use your calculator if you need to. Go to your y equals 120 divided by x. Let's see here. 8 and 15. There it is. So which one would be my positive? If I want a positive 7 in the middle. Good. So 6x squared plus 15x minus 8x minus 20. So combine, group the first two, group the last two. What's our GCF in the first two? Not just x this time. There's actually a number 2. Yes, 3. 3x, and then we get 2x plus 5. And then our GCF within the last two. Not just 4. Negative 4. Then we get 2x plus 5. So our parentheses match. So that's 2x plus 5, and then 3x minus 4. And that's your final answer for that one.